What I'm wanting to do in this short video is to take you through some of the sort of ideas behind the work Blood on Silk surgery that's currently installed in the foyer of the Science Building at Macquarie University. During 2001, my father was in hospital for about 11 and a half months. He'd had an operation to repair 2 aneurysms, and that hadn't gone quite to plan. For nearly 5 months of that time was spent in intensive care. Now, intensive care is quite an unusual, even weird place where the sort of daily routines of that sort of environment are very different from the average daily routine. But over that sort of length of time, the 4 to 5 months that Dad was there, they become normal, they become the domestic, the everyday. One of the first routines that I really became aware of was the daily taking of blood samples. So around the same time every morning, a sample of Dad's blood was taken and it went off for testing, and then if the results came back, and then if they weren't right, they played around with a few things, and then quite often it went off again and then came back, and maybe he had another test. The thing about intensive care too is it's on that it's where lots of the patients are on that sort of tipping point between life and death. So during that whole period, I spent a lot of time thinking about that tipping point and thinking about death. After Dad died, I made 3 installations, which I then located in sites that were important in how he defined himself. The town he grew up in, where he did his undergraduate degree, and then where he did his postgraduate degree. When I was making the work for the small museum in the foyer of the School of Physics at the University of Sydney, I became aware of and then met a physicist working there, Dr. Peter Domachuk. His project had the aim of developing an implantable device that would actually replace the need to take blood samples for external destructive testing, instead of which the testing or the determining of properties would be live in real time while the blood was still within the body. And that device was to be made of Fibrion, which is one of the 2 main components of silk. From that meeting, a collaboration started between us. We were joined by a writer as well, and it was a collaboration of ideas. We didn't make things together, we weren't interested in making things together, but what we did do was talk about things thrown up by what seemed to be such an unlikely pairing of 2 unrelated physical materials, blood and silk. Was fantastic, very exciting, and was very far-ranging, covering the physics and the chemistry of the 2 materials through how they interrelated, some of the properties too of the Fibrion, the dissolvability, the disposability, and then on to issues of trade, both current and historic, so the historic silk trading routes and the new trading routes for bioproducts of blood, organs and people, and how those paths of trades are located within cultural and social contexts, and then finally on to issues of human rights, including surveillance. This work, Blood on Silk surgery, started from my examination of the role of code and the distortion and mutation of those codes, both within physics and also within medical communications, primarily in hospitals, but also pre-hospital. One of the earliest signs or codes that I worked with is that of the indicating the location of a surgeon or practicer of leechcraft. This code is still recognisable today. It's the barber's pole. Formerly, bloodied bandages were wrapped around a white painted pole to indicate that the surgeon was open for business. In this work, the red and white stripes of the pole are distorted, dislocated, and start to reference or overlap with phase masks, photonic gratings, codified photographs of the physical behaviour of blood. If you look at the panel in the middle row towards the left-hand side, it's a codified form of the pattern formed by 8 drops of blood that have fallen from 1 metre in height. And it's from a course of teaching materials for forensic science. The work, made of reflective satin ribbon, also works as a photonic device, which was like the original chip was supposed, the aim of the original chip, where the nature of the transmission of light depends on the relative position of the viewer, their relationship to the work relative to the source and nature of the incoming light. One of the aspects of the site I was keen to work with was the ability to have a slow reveal of the work. Coming in from the exterior main doorway and moving into the body of the foyer, only slivers of the work are revealed. If you go up the stairs to the first landing, it's almost a theatrical unveiling of the work, where the landing becomes purely a viewing platform just for the work. You then turn your back on the work to go up the second flight of stairs, and turning left or right, you just see the work from the corner of your eye. Those lucky enough to be going to the astronomy department are able to have a closer relationship with a distorted view of the work side on as they swipe their entry card for access.